I am exhausted. I am extremely fatigued, battered. I'm. My body is just tired. Now, I've been really fatigued in the past, and this is coming off another fresh 10.5 hour, 11 hour, work shift that I just had. And it's not like the work is killing me itself. The work is easy. It's just going into work, and constantly having to, clock in and do your job for the allotted amount of time. For me, the short day is 10 hours. So that's just what it is. Now, I'm not going to just up and quit my job because I need my job, and I actually do like my job, but you do just get to the point where you are just kind of tired of going in. You just get sick of the action of stopping what you're doing, getting into your car, fighting through traffic, dealing with the fact that you're going to have to work this long shift. There's no exit, there's no leaving early, there's none of that, and you're just going to have to bite the bullet. Let that thing just go right on through. There's nothing that's going to prevent anything else from, you having to be there. I mean, you can call out sick, but you only have so many of those days, I guess, and you need to call out with notice. And usually you wake up probably not too long before your shift, and there's no time to do that. None. And that's the thing, is at least this job that I work now doesn't just work me to the point where I'm so physically and mentally exhausted that I really can't carry on. Really just tired. I had worked like another 18-day stretch or something like that, and I was working on average like 14 to 15 hours a day. And this is why people who work in food and beverage go crazy, because you just work ridiculous, crazy hours, especially the managers. If people wonder why their managers at their restaurants are always on edge or going slightly crazy, it's because they're putting in way too much time. Way too much time is invested. You're dealing with too many people complaining about their schedule, too many people complaining about their other coworkers, dealing with all the guests or the members complaining about, etc. It doesn't stop. There's always nonstop complaints when you are in management. Like when you're in management, all you hear is complaints. You're just a complaint firefighter. You just literally are just putting out fires everywhere, dealing with complaints. That's what the smoke is. Another complaint. Somebody being upset, something breaking, something falling apart. You're going to have to order some more equipment, but your corporation doesn't want to give you any money. There's all sorts of different things. This is why people in food and beverage go cuckoo, because it is stressful as hell. And this is why I got out of it. I mean, you do have a lot of really great personal relationships with people in food and beverage because it's such an intimate setting. You're always working with people closely. It's got these weird dynamics where people in the kitchen always get to know like the servers and people and the bartenders based like on their lower anatomy. Like you get really accustomed to knowing what people's butts look like, because in the pass-through window, you only have so much like tunnel vision to actually see people sometimes when you're in the kitchen. So you only see certain parts of folks. So you only like know chicks by the shape of their titties sometimes, or the shape of their hips or things like that, because you don't see much else through the pass-through window and you're usually working pretty fast. Obviously you'll get to know them other ways too, but it's just, food and beverage is very interesting department. So many different dynamics, and it has its perks of really having good things. You build some really great relationships working in food and beverage, but it will wear you down to the point where you just don't want to go on. I remember a day I worked, and by the time I worked, probably, I think it was like another one of those long stretches, but it wasn't as long as the one where I had the incident. It was just like another 6-7 day stretch, but I was working on average like 13 hours a day, and I pulled into my carport part, and I happened to wake up like 2 hours later. Barely even knew I parked. Thank God that my foot wasn't just sitting on the brake and my car was just in drive still, and I just drive right through the house. I mean, it could have been something messed up. Pretty funny, actually, but luckily that didn't happen. But I'm exhausted. So, I mean, man, oh, dude. I know other people who watch this video can definitely relate, but you can't stop. You can't stop what you're doing. Unlike in the past when I was working these long stretches, a lot of hours, a lot of days, I didn't have a whole lot going for me outside of work. I wasn't doing much besides, kicking it and playing video games, watching movies, etc. Just tricking off, money and doing stupid things. Not anything that was really productive. And that's where I didn't have the drive to keep me pushing. That's where I eventually ran out of battery. You know how you have those moments and days where, you know, you have energy and then all of a sudden it feels like you got slapped across the face and you just ran out of juice. So like you were like 60% battery and then suddenly out of nowhere, you're at like 25%. Next thing you know, you're at 10, 5, phone's beating and it's off. Well, I was running on about 5%, it felt like, for weeks. But I had ran completely out of juice. And there's days now where I feel like I'm out of juice, but I feel like I have more purpose. I feel like I have more to do, more things going on. I mean, back in the day, I'd play some flag football. I was also younger, but I didn't balance out the mental and the physical struggle with work and balancing out all the stuff that you deal with, especially being in leadership, that you will deal with. Or if you're playing, or say if you're an employee, right, and you're an hourly, but you're constantly overused, you're overutilized, you are reliable. And unfortunately, most of these jobs, if you're very reliable, you get absolutely abused because most of your coworkers are probably not that good, or they don't take their job seriously enough to where the management's going to rely on them to do much. And sometimes you're not like overly invested in your job, you're just good at it. You're just naturally good at it, and you're constantly asked to do more. And when those around you aren't doing more, you'll start getting frustrated with that job because the expectation is, for whatever reason, you need to do well. And you know, if you stop performing the way you do, it's an issue. Even though none of your coworkers can perform at all, you are going to be the one that's going to actually get in trouble if you slow down or start slacking or lacking in production. Jesus, I can't speak. But this is what happens when you work long stretches of time. Speech starts slurring. You start getting weird. It's almost like being drunk. That's what happens when you start working so long. You start getting so tired. It's almost like you're intoxicated, because it's really worse. It's really just as bad to drive tired as it is to drive drunk. It's the same. It's the same. Results aren't usually good. So just things to learn from. Like if you're one of those people, you get to lights and you're starting to fade out. You know, because I think everybody's been there. You know, anybody who's worked a job and really put in some time, you know what I'm talking about. You've been at that moment where you're like, oh my God, it felt like I was just driving for the last 15, 20 minutes and I don't remember any of it. Or you drive all the way to work and you remember none of your trip. Or you're driving on the way home from work and you remember none of the trip because you're just in a daze. You're just lost. It's almost like you're on drugs, like you're tripping balls. That's pretty much what it feels like. It feels like you're tripping. It does. And it's weird and it's not ideal. But that's the thing, is now I feel like I have more I want to do. I have stuff that I really do care about doing. I always talk about my acting class. It's fun. It's a weird community of people, not like the theater kids. It's just actually a group of adults who have always been interested in acting or getting into film, cinema, seeing if they actually have, you know, any skills at all, and you pursue it. And it's been really nice because it's been a very warm and welcoming group of people, and they have turned into some of my really great friends so far over the last year. Really great, reliable people. And honestly, it's like therapy, and I don't want to ever miss. If I miss class, I feel like burning down buildings. I feel like crushing cars and kicking over cribs. It does. It pisses me off. I don't want to miss. I play flag football on the weekends. It's my physical activity of the week, so I can go out there and, you know, and relive the glory days. It's not really that, but I do just love playing. I love competing. I'm blessed enough to actually still be in pretty decent shape in my mid-30s without ever really training. Hardly. I used to train all the time. I used to work really hard, and then I just have ridden that until this point now. I worked really hard until I was like 22, 23 years old, like, you know, trying to stay in really good shape. And pretty much at that point in time now, I just ride it out. I took advantage of it when I was younger because I used to just show up and play these games, whether I was like, you know, slightly buzzed, hungover, whatever from the night before, or just that morning because I was ready to go out there and play, didn't care. I was going to physically make it, you know, but it wasn't always easy. I put myself through some shenanigans just to make it, to be there for people and not call out. I'm not one who calls out. I show up, I make it. And I know that's not easy for everybody every day. And I get people have their excuses and reasons why they don't show up to work or want to go. And And as I said in some of my previous videos about working in 9-to-5s and needing the money and content creation versus working an actual job, which some people took that way out of context. But like I said, I'm exhausted, and I know that you have been here. I'm not always the greatest at like doing these types of videos. If you're around me, I can tell stories all day long, but sometimes putting these together is difficult. I don't even know if people like these videos, but hopefully you enjoy some of them. Once again, like, share, and subscribe to the channel, because I do need those numbers. And that's also what's driving me, is making these videos. I don't think I've been doing a good enough job sometimes of putting out as maybe informative of content as maybe some people like, but my content isn't meant to be exactly informative. It's to inform you on stuff, but also entertain you at the same time. I mostly like to joke a lot. So, and I don't take things too overly serious. I mean, the people in the comments, when people start commenting on things that just are irrelevant to the video, or you can tell that they didn't watch the video. There was a comment the other day that literally said, I didn't watch the video, but I'm just curious on what your position on this matter is. I'm like, I don't care about your opinion. You didn't watch the video. Why am I going to respond to somebody who had enough audacity and balls to comment on this video but didn't watch it? Why would you even waste the time dropping down into the comment section? I appreciate it. Thank you. Doesn't really do much for the algorithm, because I'm pretty sure you didn't like the video because you didn't watch it. That means you literally looked at the thumbnail, looked at the title, got triggered or whatever, and decided to leave a response. That's so stupid. It's so lazy. And it's also another problem with our society. We don't want to do the research. We don't want to do more. We don't want to do anything outside our comfort zone. This is why Disney keeps making remakes. This is why video games keep repeating. It's because people don't like to do new stuff. People don't like to explore it. People like to do the same shit each and every day, live their life like the Truman Show, and start over again the next day. That's what a lot of people like, and that's boring to me and boring to most, I think. But with a purpose in your life, you will have that energy you need to get past those tired times. Those times that you think you might not make it home. You'll get through when you have a purpose. You get a family. I feel like if I develop and get my own family, one day, I'll have even more purpose. Even though I'm tired, I'll be able to push through, because there's a reason to push through, which is great. But you got to pursue something in the meantime while you're on the grind. But while you're on the grind, it can kill you literally, because you're going to grind yourself to the bone. And it's tough to work through that. And you're going to have moments where you want to be and you're going to have moments where you're going to want to be irritable, and you're going to want to snap, and you want to be angry at folks, and you want to lash out. Just realize it's not their fault, so don't do it. If you're aware enough to know that you are feeling these feelings, then don't express those feelings. That's the thing that frustrates me the most about people who lash out in anger, get all uppity, get all bitchy about stuff that, you know what, you are aware that you are feeling this way. Calm down. You're an adult. Won't you act like it? People who feel like they got to buck back and give somebody a piece of their mind, or somebody, well, I ain't gonna take no disrespect off nobody. There's a point. Yes, you don't have to take disrespect, but there's also a point where people are just quickly triggered and they just want to be angry and they just want to lash out, or they want to start screaming at folks because that's just what they do. And to me, that just isn't really what an adult is. And especially being a man, that's not what a real man is. People always want to talk about stoicism, but if you ever notice, the people who talk about stoicism the most are the least stoic people you will find. The people who are always lashing out folks in group chats. The people who are just trolling folks on Twitter. The people who can't keep their composure in pressure moments. Those are the folks who are always preaching about stoicism. People who are like pastors who are out there cheating on their wives, but they always want to talk about being loyal, being monogamous, being whole, being a good role model, but yet they're out there slapping folks around in the streets, sleeping with little boys, diddling around. I mean, just that kind of stuff. I like where I'm at in my life. Am I where I want to be? No. I got ways to go. I got a ton of ways to go as far as my life and what I really want to accomplish out of it. Got plenty of things. But I feel like I'm going in the right direction. I feel like the person I am today is what I want to be as a person. Tough because people they regard me as a nice person. I tell people I think I'm a good person. I do nice things. I do good things for folks, but I'm not always nice. I'm not always good. None of us are, but overall, I really do try my best to do the right thing. And it's almost to a detriment. It's almost like it's a sickness to do it. But I think that's a good thing, to try to be there for folks, to be reliable, be somebody that people can trust is a good thing. And even though I'm dog dead tired right now, I found a second win in the middle of this video talking to y'all, because this is something that I enjoy doing. Obviously, if you were around me in real life, you'd know I could run my mouth all day long, even though there are stretches of time I don't want to talk to anyone, because I spend so much time doing either this or having to pretend to be nice at work. I am a nice guy, but there are moments you don't want to be. You want to be a douche. You want to just throw hot coffee on somebody because they're being an asshole, or they're just bothering you. But folks who don't know how to act when people are just bothering them bother me. Just get quiet, and then most people will kind of get the hint. Most. If they don't, damn. Some people do be missing the cues, but this rant's lasting way too long. But man, that's the only point I wanted to talk about today. I'm freaking tired as hell. But I'm gonna be okay. I'm not crashing out. I'm just exhausted. And because I feel like I'm doing things that's leading towards, a bigger purpose for me. Hopefully I can grow this channel to something that I'd like to one day. Probably will open another channel at some point in time, because I gotta talk about some of these other things I like to talk about, but it won't work here because I don't think half of my fan base would want to listen to it. Either way, did this car just shut off? Wow. That is an interesting feature I completely forgot about. This car will shut itself off if it's been sitting in park and idle for too long, which is kind of nice. Either way, peace.